Well, Christina, we have a thrill to have our guest Mark Finchem, Secretary of
Yes.
State candidate for Arizona. And we were privileged to meet him last year at the
right.
Republican Assembly Convention, and welcomed the Concerted Commander radio show all the way here in Orlando, Florida during a heavy campaign season. Mark, God bless you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great.
It's a pleasure. I'm here with the America Project and just a whole bunch of patriots. You know,
Sure.
I want to call out to Michael Thompson and to
Yeah.
Wendy Nissan and
Yes.
and Raj. I mean, this
Yes.
crew they're really doing great work to raise visibility to the issues that are going on in elections here in Florida. And quite frankly, these are the same issues that virtually every state is facing. It's
Yes.
not just in Florida. It's
That's
not just
true.
in Arizona.
That's
We're seeing
true.
the same thing in Georgia and Tennessee.
Right.
But I'm so excited to see that the American people have awoken. It's kind of like Rip Van Winkle.
That's good. I
They've
like
awoken, and it's like, have you seen my country? Because I think it's missing. Well, it ain't missing anymore. The people are no longer missing in action. In fact, they are madder than a wet hen, as I say.
that. It's good.
And
They
I'm
are.
glad to see them asking questions about their elections.
Right.
Well, the Arizona audit was an incredible event for our country.
Incredible.
It was totally misreported on what was going on there
Yes.
by the media.
It was.
But you're a lightning rod for our nation right now. I know Mike Lindell is supporting you and President Trump, and you care so much about this country. You would take time out during this very hectic campaign because you realize that your leadership is going to touch all 50 states.
Yeah. Right.
And thank you. I appreciate the kind words. It's not, we're sister states.
Yes. Yes.
And if we try to do this alone, one state at a time,
Sure.
we're not going to succeed. The fact that we were able to pull together, Jim Marchant reached out to me, I want to say January a year ago, and introduced himself and said, hey, what would you think about driving up to Lake Havasu City and meeting with me? Which is a bit more of a drive for me than it is for him, but
Sure.
he was coming from way north Las Vegas. And through the conversation, we were talking a little bit about what he wanted to accomplish. And I said, perhaps we should open this up to all of the Secretary of State candidates across the country and see if they're willing to work together.
Yes.
And what has happened is this wonderful organization has
Yeah.
blossomed, and it's quite organic,
Yeah, it is.
where we are sharing ideas, we are reaching out to effective, successful secretaries of state. And I'm not talking about the three witches of Eastwick, Jocelyn Benson, Jenna Griswold, and Katie Hobbs. I
Right.
mean, these are all three Marxist Democrats
Yeah.
who have seized
Yeah.
control of the state elections director, the senior elections director in our various states.
It's amazing.
You've got, for example, Jenna Griswold in Colorado, who is on what can only be described as a weaponized government mission to destroy Tina Peters.
Yes.
Tina Peters
it's
did
amazing.
something absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
She preserved the records.
Yes.
By the
did.
way, a function that she is required to do under 52 CFR 20701. People can go out and look it up.
Right.
It's a one-paragraph federal law. It simply says you have to preserve both electronic and paper records
Right.
for 22 months after an election.
Sure.
So, if you don't know about this incident with Tina, she was the Mesa County
Amazing
clerk.
what happened.
She was told, well, we're going to do a trusted build on the software for all of your elections computers.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, we already know that the Democrats don't really care about the law, so I'm going to make a forensic image of the hard drives just to preserve them so that I'm not running afoul of federal law.
Right.
They came in and they did their trusted build thing. Then they left, and Tina is like, what do you think the chances are that records were destroyed?
Right.
Right.
So, and part of this is in preparation for the next coming election.
Sure.
She goes in, and they had been obliterated. A violation,
Totally.
and by the way, every
Correct.
single record that is destroyed, each one of those is a violation of 52 CFR
Yes.
20701. So what she did is she caught
Yeah. She did.
Jocelyn Benson in the act of committing a series of federal crimes. Each one of those could result in a year in prison and a $1,000 fine.
Yes.
Yet
Wow.
we've got a U.S. attorney, corrupt as he is, Merrick Garland or whatever his name is. I mean, it's a good thing we don't have this guy sitting on the U.S. Supreme Court. We dodged a bullet on that one.
Yes.
But you've got a U.S. attorney and an attorney general of the United States who will not prosecute that. Why? Because of party. So here is what the American people are calling for.
Yeah.
We want an end to the two-tier system of justice,
Yes.
where you have
Yeah.
those who are picked upon and
Yeah.
those who are given a pass.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden,
Yes.
there's
Yeah.
the pass.
Right.
Jocelyn Benson, Jenna Griswold, Katie Huff, those are the pass.
Hillary.
Hillary, and all of that garbage heap.
They're all
And then you have people like Tina Peters, who actually is doing her job,
simply.
and she gets prosecuted on it.
I know.
This is an upside down world, and
Yes, we are
the
in
people are
upside down.
asking us to please bring sense to this world.
Sure.
Carrie Lake did an incredible job, and as did you.
I'm so proud
in your
of
primary.
I'm so proud of her. I
but,
really am.
But this Arizona team is shaping up into being one of the nation's finest,
yeah,
It's really
And-
stepped
Yep.
up.
and
Yeah.
I think it's because you're Christians who pray.
that's a big part of it.
That is a
That's
part.
a huge part of
That
it.
is a huge
Yes.
part.
I think that we have a commitment to the rule of law.
Yes.
Right.
We have a commitment to honest representation of the interests of the people.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a piece of scripture that I quote often that really should be the guidepost for everyone running for office, and that is Exodus 18:21. Choose from among you godly men, disinterested in personal gain. That's the key
That's the-
feature
Whoa.
to lead the thousands, the hundreds, the fifties, and the tens.
Right.
It's a simple piece of scripture, but
is, yeah.
if you unpack that, it's calling on, first of all, pastors, encourage your congregations to vote.
Sure. That's
Don't
huge.
give me this garbage, politics don't belong in a church. Really? If that weren't the case, why is that in the Bible?
Exactly.
That's right. Why
Answer
would you
that
even
question for
put
me.
in there?
But moreover, find people who they're not there to line their pockets.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi, Paul, whatever his name is.
Right.
And my prayers go out to him. Hopefully he has a full recovery.
Yes.
And I talked to Raj about this earlier in another interview. We must conduct ourselves with dignity,
Absolutely.
with respect.
Yes.
We are going to ask thoughtful questions the day after the election, no matter who wins.
Right.
We are going to want to know, as a polity, as the body politic,
Right.
were votes cast and counted that were outside of the law?
Sure.
In Arizona, for example, I've got part of my speech here. 20,000 mail-in ballots were delivered after the election in 2020.
Wow.
They went to the post office and picked them up on November 4th.
Of course.
Okay, wait a minute.
That
is an act that is
That totally
outside of the law.
contrary.
Yes,
That
it is.
absolutely-
Those ballots should have been picked
Yeah.
up by midnight on the 3rd of November, yet they were counted. Here's another one for you, and this one
Right.
will really blow your mind. A study of ballot envelope signatures identified 229,430 mismatched signatures in just Maricopa County.
In one county.
In one county. Now,
That's amazing.
I know that you've got somebody here in Florida,
Yeah.
a very good friend of mine, Wendy Nissan,
Yeah.
who actually took a looking glass, and because there were signatures that were an exact match
Yes.
from history to present. Well, she put that under a looking glass, and lo and behold, they're dots. They're not free-flowing ink. They're copies
Yeah.
that were put on ballots, that were put on ballot envelopes. So she's on to something.
Right.
Yes.
And I hope that your Governor DeSantis's, I guess you guys have a new election integrity enforcement unit here. I hope that they take
Yes.
a really close look at that, and they gas those things for prints, they find out who handled them, and they start working this like a racketeering case that it is.
Yeah.
This is racketeering in the worst way, that is assaulting the body politic. And I guess the argument could be made that this is treason against the people.
Okay, I'm going to throw a little techie at you.
That is treason.
Adjudication goes on. What you were just bringing up. when you look at the matching of the signatures. But I believe we found out that online, the adjudication granulation, like you said, looking under the glass, it can be pulled up and it can be brought back.
Right.
By outside characters.
Yeah.
That is not of the law. It should be.
It's outside the law.
It should be 14th Amendment here. Everything is equally protected, but that's not happening.
That's right. Well, where we're at right now, and I think you touched that on the beginning.
Right.
All of the America First Secretary of State candidates are making a call to hold people accountable for one thing: just follow the law.
Simple, huh?
It is a simple concept.
It's supposed to be.
It is designed to put us at a place where the thumb of influence is taken off the scale of election justice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, if we follow the law, which is the expectation, I mean, coming from the legislature after 8 years,
Right.
I have a little experience at this. The whole point of passing law is an expectation that people will actually follow it.
Yes.
If that weren't so, why would we add ramifications? Why would we add consequences?
Yes.
Okay, so now it's time for the people to kick out the George Soros types that refuse, the prosecutor types that refuse to enforce the law, refuse to prosecute for crimes.
Sure.
Especially when you've got a suspect, you've got evidence, you've got a crime scene, you've got witnesses. It's time to lock this thing down and
Sure.
return to the path of trying to make our elections more secure.
Sure.
Will we ever be able to eliminate fraud? I think that's going to be a battle. That's a battle that started with Cain and Abel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't think that battle stops until the last human takes the last breath off of this planet.
Yeah.
What's supposed to be integrity?
Yeah,
I mean, isn't this what it's all about? You said even the day after
that's right.
the thing that we still need to maintain a place of integrity.
That's
in
right.
this.
And we need to be responsible in our remarks.
Absolutely, yes.
We
I
we
agree.
must
Yes.
act with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we also want to insist you are going to follow the law.
That's right.
Elections officials. I mean, you got
Yeah.
rid of what's her name, Brenda Snipes. I mean,
Yeah.
here's an example of perhaps one of the worst actors that got caught.
Right.
But it's the work by my very good friend Wendy Nissan, who she's like a pit bull on a pork chop. She's not going to let go of this
She's
thing.
Thank
not.
you.
She's
And I'm
not,
just really
which is
pleased to be
great.
associated with such great patriots as her.
That's beautiful.
Mark, we are right at the edge of the election, but how can our viewers, our listeners support you? Even now, website, how can they get involved
Yeah.
and help you?
Well, thank you for the offer. If you go to votefinchem.com, it's VOTE, F like Frank, IN like Nancy, CHE like Edward, M like Mark.com. They can click on the news tab, learn a little bit more about me. In fact, if you want to give me the link to this podcast, I'd be happy to put it up there for you.
Absolutely.
But they can also click on the donate tab. And by doing that, every dollar bill that comes into our campaign, we're using for advertising to get the word out about election integrity and security.
Right. That's good.
So
that-
votefinchem.com.
There you go.
And your closing arguments, I think we probably have a couple minutes and we can finish this out.
Yeah.
We'll come up against a hard break, but what would you say to our audience, summary that you want to tell them?
Hold your county elections officials accountable.
That's good.
We have got to get off of, and in fact, Clint Curtis is here at this event.
Yeah.
He's the guy who wrote the software to flip votes. Now, he's a contract programmer, but he's also come out and said, look, people, if you want to take security over your elections, I think he told the Norwegian government, throw your machines in the sea and go back to hand counting of paper ballots
Yes.
on election day.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
safe.
That's how we get to be secure. And when you have county officials that try and tell you, oh, well, that's not possible, we'll need so many people, we'll need this, stop a second. How much money are you spending on machines that calculate? They don't tabulate, they calculate.
Right.
They calculate a selection.
Sure.
All right, let's get away from that.
Sure.
You could take the exact same money and hire paid volunteers, have a process where you are able to count ballots by hand, votes
Sure.
by hand,
Right.
We now have the digital camera stuff that you can have a camera over
Yes.
their shoulder, watching what they're doing.
Yes.
And for those who would say, "Oh, well, it'll compromise the anonymous vote," that's BS.
Yeah.
Once you take the ballot out of an envelope on a mail-in ballot,
There you go.
you have now separated the voter from their intention. Now, the other thing that people can do is demand an end to mail-in ballots. The state of Tennessee still has an absentee ballot system
Yes.
Yes.
where you have to opt in. It's not make a list of people and we're going to mail them ballots. No. Stop a second.
No harvesting there.
That is how you get a polluted voter roll over time.
Yes.
Sure.
Instead, force the registration of people, and I heard that Florida is now issuing driver's licenses to
Yes.
illegal aliens.
I know, that's what we
That's a
heard.
problem.
Yeah.
Governor DeSantis and the legislature are going to have to put an end to that.
Sure.
But I think people need to hold their elected officials accountable to following not just the rule of law, but the spirit of the law.
There you go.
So, with that, thank you very much for the
All right.
opportunity
God
to
bless.
talk.
And my last
Great.
comment is there was a number of elections, and my wife and I are seniors, and Arizona knew that day who had won. You could talk
Yeah.
about the Harry Truman. You could talk
Right.
Eisenhower. There's a lot of elections
Right.
down through the years. Arizona knew in the national races who won that day.
Right.
You're trying to bring that kind of competency back.
Yes, indeed. In fact,
Yeah.
there's something that we've been alerted to. One of the news stations in Arizona already published the result for the 2022 election that Katie Hobbs won. I think it was 53 to Carrie Lake's
goodness.
47%.
Oh, for goodness
And
sake.
of course, folks are now saying, "What's going on there?"
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, of course, the news media is now silent on that. They got caught. But I think we're going to see just a massive
Yeah.
wave across the United States.
I do too.
I think I predict that we're going to take the Senate, we're going to take the House, and that's why in Arizona we're going to see
Sure.
an increase in the number of conservatives and Republicans in office.
Yeah.
I think we'll win my race. I think Carrie Lake's. I mean, we've got the momentum
Yes.
and we've got the message. They may be outspending us 10-1.
Well, yeah.
They may have people like George Soros and Liz
Sure.
Cheney
Yeah.
and that whole cast of characters, but it really is message over money.
It
Yes.
is.
And
It
as
is.
long as we are standing on moral principles of
Yeah.
election integrity, election
agree.
security, fairness, so that everybody
Absolutely
has an
agree.
opportunity to compete in the arena of ideas,
Right.
we will prevail.
Yeah.
And with that, we want to thank
Great.
you, Mark Finchem,
Thank you.
candidate Secretary of State Rep in Arizona. God bless you for coming on
Yes,
Conservative Commander Radio Show
absolutely.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.
You bet.